promote practicum relations and interactions among the stakeholders, among the partners of practicum process. And this seminar will specifically focus on practicum processes, which we believe that the most important practice in English language teacher education programs. There are mainly three stakeholders, or we can say three partners in practicum process, and these are pre-service teachers of English, in-service teachers working at state schools, and supervisors at the universities. And of course we have Minister of National Education and universities as institutions, but the main collaboration is usually among these groups of people. Throughout the practicum, pre-service teachers can find opportunities to meet real classroom settings. They see real students in the classrooms. They practice what they have learned until then. How about the in-service teachers? They could find a chance to provide a model for future teachers, and while doing this, they could also develop themselves professionally. And this is closely related to continuous professional development. And as for the supervisors, supervisors working at the universities, we can say that we have the chance to see the relationship between theory and practice. We can observe what works in a real classroom setting and what doesn't work. So we believe that this practicum course is very critical for all stakeholders and should be taken more seriously. And with this purpose, we invited our professors from prestigious institutions of our country, and they kindly accepted our invitation, although they are quite busy, and most of the time they are more than quite busy. And they kindly accepted our invitations, and thank you very much for them. And since they have more to say, I don't want to take too much time of their talks, but we are grateful to them for accepting our invitation and coming here to share their ideas with us. And thank you all. And we are also thankful to the US Embassy Regional English Language Office, especially to David Fay and Aydan Yamanesen, for supporting this event. They really helped us a lot, and not only with financial and material support, they also helped us with their ideas by shaping this event. We are also grateful to Dr. Anand Raj for this event. This event cannot be possible, I cannot see her, but this event cannot be possible without her efforts and ideas. We really worked in collaboration and managed to gather many people from different regions. And the last but not least, the contribution of our pre-service teachers who helped us throughout the process. You will find them around here with Ask Me name tags. You will see some students with Ask Me name tags, and I'm sure they will kindly help you if you feel confused about any issue. And as for the final remarks, I would like to remind you some technological points about the seminar. This event being broadcast online, some people can also follow us online if they cannot come here. So if your friends, if your colleagues, if your teachers or students at ELT departments could not come here, they can still follow the talks. Please share the link from social media accounts, and you will be able to get the link using a QR code over there. If you scan that code, you will get a YouTube link, and if you share that link, the ones who cannot come here will also be able to follow this seminar. And our special thanks goes to Distance Education Center of our university for providing this service, this online service. As for the participants of this event, your contribution to this event is also very important for us. So please share your ideas, your comments, questions, and photos using the Bolu ELT hashtag on social media. It can be on Instagram, it can be on Twitter or Facebook. If you share your comments, questions, photos, or your ideas using that hashtag, this will help you to create your personal learning network. And thank you again for being here today to make this event more productive and relevant. I wish each and every one of us can find inspiration and fresh perspectives about practicum practices in English language teacher education programs. Thank you all.
In this session, Professor Dr. Gölge Seferoğlu will be on stage. I would like to introduce her. Gölge Seferoğlu is a professor in English language teaching at Middle East Technical University. She received her BA in English language teaching from Boğaziçi University, and she holds MA, EDM, and EDD degrees from Teachers College, Columbia University in the fields of TESOL and applied linguistics. Gölge Seferoğlu served widely as a consultant to many language teacher education projects and programs in Turkey, contributing to the Turkish education system at large. She has worked in various national projects, including the development of national English curriculum for high schools and structuring the National English Teacher Competences Framework. She published various research articles nationally and internationally that deal with teaching and learning English and use of technology in language learning. Her research interests include technology-enhanced language learning, pre- and in-service teacher education, and teaching, speaking, and pronunciation. Today, she is going to deliver her speech called Turkey's 2023 Education Vision, Professional Development as a Mindset, Not a Skill Set. Please welcome Professor Dr. Gölge Seferoğlu.
Can you hear me now? Oh, okay, great. Maybe it will be better if I place it here. Okay. Great. Probably you don't need this microphone, but since it's recorded and some other people are watching us over the internet, it's better to have this microphone. Good morning. Welcome to this session. It's an honor and privilege for me to be here. When my former students invited me, I got really excited. I love meeting new people, meeting my former students. So I'm very happy to be here today. Yes?
Your presentation will last till sunset?
Sunset. How did you know?
You said sunset.
Sunset. Maybe I will be here till sunset. I was asked to deliver a talk on this topic within the framework of this vision document, education vision document. I was asked to talk about professional development, and that's what I will be doing today. Before going on with my talk, I'd like to thank Dr. Anıl Söylemez and Sedat Akayoğlu for organizing this event. They are very studious, hardworking, and enthusiastic about these kinds of events. We don't see it very often with young professionals, really. Some are after points, trying to calculate, get points for professorship, associate professorship, etc. Organizing this event doesn't count towards that, but they like, it's useless, yeah, they like, Anıl and Sedat are great in getting people together and organizing events. I thank them. Yeah, let's give an applause to them. Okay, some of you know this, but I'd like to introduce myself briefly before I go on with my talk. These numbers signify things in my life. Can you guess what they might refer to? My age. Thank you, Kenan. 22 is not my age. My son is 23 years old. Okay. Any guesses? 6, 6, and 22?
6 years in the administration?
Oh, no, 10 years in the administration. In fact, yeah, a long time. Well, I don't want to take up much time of my talk, so 6 years I spent at Boğaziçi University, first studying undergraduate student, and then I became a research assistant. And then 6 years at Columbia University, I got a Ministry of Education scholarship, and I went to United States to do my master's and PhD. And 22 years I have worked at Middle East Technical University, and 10 years of which, fortunately and unfortunately, I had administrative duties. Okay, why am I here? I really believe that every day we learn new things, and as I become older and older, and as I, became a professor, I understood that there are so many things I don't know. So the more I learn, the more I realize that I learn very little. And I am here to learn from you, to learn together, to share ideas and other things. That's why I am here. Now, the framework of my talk will be this vision document. I don't know, how many of you had a chance to take a look at it? Like a few, okay. Today I will be talking about, referring to two things in the vision document. This, if I can, well, the professional development of teachers, you see it 42-44, and foreign language education in the second column. So I will be referring to those things in the vision document. The vision document highlights the importance of treating students as human beings, whole human beings, not, like machines or vessels, but human beings. That's important. And teachers are placed in the very focus of the whole process. So the teachers are the main players in the education system, according to the document. And what they are expected to do is guide the students. Purpose of education, it highlights that in the past, there has been a focus on exams and etc. But the main focus of education should be helping human beings or students grow. That's what's said in the document. So I'd like to ask you, what's teaching? How do you define teaching? Guiding, okay. Any other ideas? Sharing. In the document, it says, insan insanın gölgesinde yetişir. So it's the philosophy behind the document, if you take a closer look at it. So how I interpret this is teachers should be role models, and that's their main job. That's how I want to interpret it. And students learn from them, looking at the role models. This Seymour Papert is an academician in the United States, and he says our job as teachers is preparing students for situations which they will encounter in the future, but which we don't know right now. So we cannot prepare our students to be ready for things we know right now, currently, but we have to do whatever is required to make them ready to solve problems, to act well in situations in the future which they will encounter. It's very difficult, but that's what is needed. And as we all know, the recent trends in education focus on engaged learning and discovery through experiences. So we cannot just tell our students, this is what you need to do, etc., but we should help them, guide them to discover it for themselves. Again, I am going back to the vision document. It says we need to equip students with not only with skills, but they should be able to deal with challenges of life. A lot of good intentions we see in the document. And teachers are expected, again, this is from the vision document, education vision document, teachers are expected to touch the lives of individuals with an affection of a mother. And we should, it says, encourage the implicit curriculum within the students flourish, and then their curiosity should be triggered. And it says learning is part of the human system. We are wired, we are born to learn. So we cannot teach students how to learn, it says, but we should preserve that natural ecosystem which we already have. We shouldn't just limit it, etc. So we should preserve the ecosystem for learning and trigger feeling, thinking, and doing, it says. And now it comes to teachers and how teachers should learn. Teachers should recognize that every child is different, and teachers should be open to continuous learning, it says. Okay, and it goes on to explain that individuals should be responsible for their own learning, and education is useful only when it's aligned with the natural motivations of the individual. And raising learners who have self-determination and natural curiosity and who see learning itself as a reward is the aim. Okay, so far, what do you, excellent, right? Excellent. So on paper, these are really up to date and what should be done, but translating it to practice implementation is another problem. It's very difficult to, of course, implement all of these things in practice, but the intention is good, and we hope that this will be realized in practice, but it cannot be done in one day or 1 year. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of change in people, change in the system, and etc. Okay, so it says, in the document, it says, the main problem of the Turkish education system is not a matter of low budget or substructure, it's a matter of mindset, it says. Good again, but how do we change the mindset is the question. Okay, so that's why, in this talk, I would like to focus on professional development, not as a skill set. When I say skill set, I mean this. Teachers learn how to teach listening, how to teach the grammar, how to integrate technology into teaching, etc. So if we treat professional development as a skill set, that means we offer courses like this. Teaching, listening, teaching, speaking, etc. But when we approach professional development as a mindset, it requires very different things. Mindset is an idea discovered by Carol Dweck, a psychologist at Stanford University. She says she divides the world into learners and non-learners. I don't like categories much, because categories just categorize things or people. Nothing is black and white. Everything is continuous and etc. That's my belief. But still, they help us in understanding things and in finding out solutions. So I like this idea. She says, fixed mindset people believe that they are either good at something or bad at something. Some people are like that. They have strong beliefs in their own abilities. These fixed mindset people give up when they are frustrated. They stick to what they know. What they know is very valuable, and they just stick to that. They believe that their potential is predetermined. They have a potential, they believe, and that's it. They accept it like that. They don't like to be challenged. They feel threatened. But growth mindset people believe that challenges help them grow. They believe that their effort and attitude determine their abilities. So if you put effort and if you have positive attitude, you can change your abilities, they believe. They like to try new things, and they are inspired by the success of others. So we have all of these qualities in ourselves. We are not necessarily one side or the other side, but this is important. Why? Because if professional development is a mindset, then we need to become closer to the growth mindset qualities. So that's why it's important. So growth mindset explains that success comes with dedication and hard work and positive attitude. This is another chart showing the differences between fixed and growth mindset. Okay, so I have a question. Yes, in this talk we will be talking about professional development, but we have to consider pre-service teachers as well. Are novice teachers prepared for challenges of teaching in our country? So at universities, do we prepare our graduates for the challenges of teaching? What do you think? Pre-service teachers, raise your hands if you're a pre-service teacher, undergraduate, studying at the undergraduate program. Yes. So do you think your program prepares you for teaching? Probably you don't know it yet. If you are going to practice teaching, you may have some idea. But when you start teaching, you will understand that there are many missing things in your in the program curricula. The most important one is there are many culturally, linguistically, socio-economically diverse settings you may work, and the program doesn't really introduce you to those diverse settings. Usually in the classes we talk about ideal settings, and when you go to different places in the country, or even different types of schools within the same city, you are faced with very different and challenging situations. What about the last one, engagement with ongoing professional learning? I'm not sure whether we, in the undergraduate programs, equip our learners, student teachers, with the necessary skills to be able to engage with ongoing professional development all their life long. I don't know. I have doubts. And then, usually, that's what is observed. Novice teachers, first-year teachers, second-year teachers, they understand that very little is covered in the undergraduate program. So they don't have much in their actual teaching. That's what they see, realize. Okay, so what is effective teacher education? Any ideas, any suggestions? Giving the right mindset, yes, exactly. So yes, we try to give the skill set. That's also required, but since the human being is supposed to continue learning all their life long, so the most important thing is giving the mindset, exactly. So we have to prepare them, again, for situations which we never know right now in the current situation, but they should have the resilience and the mindset to be able to cope well in whatever setting they go. They will fail. You know, resilience means it's like Hacı Yatmaz. I had a picture, but I just deleted it. You have to be like Hacı Yatmaz. You may just fall down or about to fall down, but you have to just get up and continue whatever you are doing. So that's what we need to do in the programs. There is a study I'd like to refer to, Thalys study. It's a European Union, one of the European Union studies done in different countries and compares countries' education systems. According to this Thalys study, you see Turkey is at the end percentage of teachers who undertook professional development or in-service training activities at the end. And this is more important. Index of professional development needs. As you see, Turkey is at the end again. So this means Turkish teachers state that they don't need professional development. Okay, for someone who is not knowledgeable about the Turkish context, this may be surprising and it may be very difficult to explain this, but my explanation is this. Because in-service training activities are not very effective, probably teachers say, if the activities are like that, then I don't need them. Probably. Okay, what does student learning depend on? It may depend on students' personality, learning styles, motivation, prior knowledge, etc., etc. But it depends very much on teacher learning. If teachers are learning, students also learn. There is a study, a book, which says that up to 3/4 of school effects can be explained by teacher effects. So the vision document is really, correct in focusing on the teacher first, not the curricula, not the testing, not materials or other things, but teachers, because teachers are the most important component of the education system. And as I said, if teachers learn, students learn. So teachers should have a change orientation. When we graduate from university, or when we get a master's degree, or when we complete our 10 years or 15 years in the profession, we are not done. We are never done. So if we have this change orientation, then we help our students learn. But how do we change? Can you change if someone tells you to change? Probably, if you are married, your spouses try to change you. Your mothers try to change you, right? For instance, probably, I do that too. My daughter is very, messy, and I tell her, you should just, organize your room, etc. You should get up early. You should do this, etc., etc. So I try to change her, but of course she doesn't change. So we don't change if someone tells us to change. So if Minister of Education tells you to change, you don't change. How do you change? What is the requirement for change? New challenges.
You feel not
Okay, Aydan hocam, thank you very much. It's thank you. She has all the correct answers. Yes, you need to feel the need to change. Otherwise, you don't change. So teachers are really complex. We have knowledge, skills, beliefs, values, motivation, feelings. We have our feelings, etc. If we don't want to change, we don't change. And teachers' learning should be personal, it's very important, practical, and situated. If someone tells you that you need to learn how to integrate technology into your teaching, if you don't need that, if you don't see the value of it in your own teaching, you don't learn, you wouldn't learn. Simon Phipps, here I would like to refer to a colleague. Simon Phipps once said, teachers' beliefs and or practices will only change if teachers become dissatisfied with whatever they are doing currently. And if they accept the alternatives as being intelligible, plausible, and fruitful. So you should be dissatisfied with your current situation, and you should believe that the new thing you will try will be helpful. Okay, I already asked this question. And how does change happen in education? With educational reforms, changing the curricula, changing testing, does it happen like that? We have seen that it doesn't. When you treat components of education system separately, without considering the system's framework, because in the system everything influences the other thing, teachers, textbooks, testing, etc. If you change just one thing in the system and you expect the learning to be higher, it doesn't happen by just changing the curriculum and etc. Okay, so what is learning? I asked what is teaching, now what is learning? Very silent audience, okay. Belma Tuğrul is a professor in early childhood education. Once she just sent a tweet to Gündem Özel. Perhaps you know the program, Gündem Özel by Deniz Bayramoğlu. The topic was learning, teaching and learning. And Belma Tuğrul just sent this tweet. She explained, she said that they did a study with 6-year-old kids and they asked what is learning, and the kids said learning is being excited, wondering about things, just wondering what she or he is doing, etc., etc. And düşünmeye dalmak, I interpret this as flow. So like forgetting about everything happening around you and just focusing on one thing is learning. They also said asking questions. Learning is asking questions, they said. Again, getting impatient about things. So 6-year-olds have a very good idea about what is learning, but I think we just destroy it during the education process. So remember in the vision document it said preserving the natural ecosystem of learning is the aim. It said it's important because when we are born, we have that in ourselves. We have that learning motivation. But that motivation is killed by education sometimes. Okay, according to self-determination theory, students have three basic innate needs: feel related to others, feel competent, and feel autonomous. I think this is important because as teachers, we need to give all of these feelings to our students. Students should feel competent, should have confidence. If we just categorize students, for instance, you are not a good learner, you are lazy, etc., etc., then the student doesn't feel competent and confident and stops learning. Students should feel autonomous. They should be given a chance to choose and just decide on their own pathways for learning. According to 21st century skills, the competence, there are three domains of competence: cognitive, intrapersonal, and interpersonal. I think in our Turkish education system, we focus on the cognitive dimension a lot, but we ignore intrapersonal, within the person, and interpersonal competence. And that's what we need to focus on, I think. And adult learning, okay. Now for teachers learning, teachers' professional development, it cannot be done just giving lectures or asking them to sit in halls for in-service training sessions, but we need to consider all of these things. They should be a reason for learning. They should have some experience. You learn by trial and error. So you should give them a chance to fail and learn from their mistakes. Whatever they do should have immediate relevance to their work. Otherwise, they wouldn't care. Okay, so professional development in your pajamas. Professional development is a lifelong thing, and you can do it at home too in your pajamas. How? There are so many things over the internet. You can join, you can watch YouTube videos, you can join wikis, webinars, etc. The American Embassy English Language Office organizes a lot of webinars. You should just participate in those webinars. Einstein says, once you stop learning, you die. That's true. If you just shut yourself off from the environment and you stop learning, you die. Not physically maybe, but you die. Okay, so I believe that a motivated and lifelong learning teacher is the key to success. Because the teacher's excitement about the subject, about teaching and learning, it spreads like a virus. You know, if the teacher is excited about the topic, then the students become excited. But if the teacher doesn't care, then students, they don't care. So it's again for Linda Darling Hammond says, for student agency, students should be agent for their own learning. They shouldn't be passive recipients of knowledge. They should be agents. And for that, there are a number of things teachers should do, can do, like enabling collaboration and peer learning, building reflection and extension into learning. Extension into learning is also crucial. Learning doesn't stop in the class or in the school, in the boundaries of the school. It should go beyond, it goes beyond the school. It continues all life long, and at home, everywhere students go. So if you can achieve that, you're a wonderful teacher. If the student continues thinking, in the class we talked about this, how can I apply it in this session, you know, whatever problem he or she is faced with, then you are a successful teacher. Okay, the key to success, I already told you, but it's very difficult to be a teacher because there are so many expectations of the students, the administrators, parents, society, etc. Immediate needs and expectations and short-term needs and expectations you have to deal with. How do you achieve success? Again, by learning to learn and lifelong learning and celebrating student success. I would like to highlight that learners should experience success. They should feel confident. You should have, every learner is different, yes, unique. They may have different needs, but it's your job to encourage them and make them experience success. The success might be different for each student, by the way. So getting 100 on the exam is success for one student, but for another student, just answering one question might be success. So I already said this, becoming a role model for student interest. Okay, motivating students beyond the classroom, I already mentioned. Teaching by discovery, yeah. Not telling them the correct answer, but letting them find out the answer by discovering. In mathematics, for instance, don't just give the right answer or don't just praise students who found the right answer, but look at how they found that answer. They may have different ways, and you should appreciate and praise all different ways. Okay, I said this is a repetition slide. I said this before for students. For teachers, this is also relevant. So teachers, for professional development, they should feel related to others, they should feel competent, and they should feel autonomous. In a study we did with one of my PhD students, we found that teachers do not feel confident about, English teachers do not feel confident about their English skills, English proficiency. With a group participants of 5,000 English teachers. We reached 5,000 English teachers working at Ministry of Education schools, and they said they don't feel competent about their English skills. If an English teacher doesn't feel competent about English skills, then he or she would not feel competent. So this is a very good place to, get started working, because if the teacher doesn't feel competent, he or she cannot help the students. Okay, I already mentioned this. Teachers' personal beliefs about students influence student learning. If the student feels that the teacher believes that he or she cannot learn, then it influences the student. So be very careful about your beliefs or transmitting your beliefs to students. I already mentioned this. Okay. Okay, probably this is my last slide. Usually in novice teachers, we observe this. Teachers try to catch up with the curricula or try to finish up the lesson plan. The lesson plan is very important. So their main aim is just to complete the lesson plan. Sometimes they don't have any communication or whatsoever with the students. They focus on the lesson plan and they try to complete it. But a lesson is not about completing tasks, finishing the lesson plan. It's about learning and giving the learners an opportunity to learn for themselves. So it's not a series of activities. This is one thing we should keep in mind. Sometimes one activity doesn't work. Just leave it there and do whatever you can do to involve, to engage the learners in learning. Okay, so we should accept that. I have been giving talks, for instance, for many, many years. Practice is important. I believe that practice makes perfect, really. I mean, in one way, this is important. It's a behavioristic way of thinking, I know, but for every skill, whatever you practice, you get better in it. But still, after years and years, even after 30 years, you may have challenges. This is normal. So you don't become a better, teacher or a better whatever after years. Years do not give you skills. You have to work for it. You have to continue learning. Sometimes in Ministry of Education, they say, okay, we invited teachers with 30 years of experience. It's important, yes, but how you spent those 30 years is important. Sometimes a novice teacher or a teacher with 2-3 years of experience is more knowledgeable or is more open to new ideas or deals with challenges better compared to a 30-year experienced teacher. So thank you very much for listening to me. If you have any questions or comments, I will be very happy to answer. There are no questions? I am very bad at timing, so I don't have whether we have time or not, but you should have some questions or comments. No comments?
Not from me, but I would expect you also to be a part of my session and give me.
Yes, I will do that. You know why Aydan Hoca is saying that? Because I told her in the morning during breakfast, Sedat just said that some people are really busy, but some people are busier than busy. I just flew from Van. I was at a conference in Van. I gave a talk there. And I flew from Van to Ankara. And without going home, I directly came here. And then from here, I'll go to Istanbul, Boğaziçi University. I have a talk. And then I'll go back to Ankara. I'll teach 6 hours of classes on Wednesday, and then I'll go to Glasgow for a PhD jury. I'm an external jury member there, and I have the dissertation with me here. And I told Aydan Hoca that I will be reading the dissertation during your talk. I said, that's why she is telling me to be active during her presentation. I will be active during your presentation, don't worry. I will read the dissertation during Kenan's talk. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Gölge Hocam, for this brilliant speech. Now we have 15 minutes of coffee break. Kapattım. Değil mi? Okay. Tamam. O zaman bunlar dursun.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Kerem Köse. Now we have Associate Professor Dr. Kenan Dikilitaş. I would like to introduce him. Kenan Dikilitaş is an associate professor at the Department of English Language Teaching at Bahçeşehir University, Istanbul, Turkey. His research interests include English language teacher education with a focus on teacher research and bilingual teacher development. He is currently the joint coordinator of IATIFL Research Special Interest Group. We would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Kenan Dikilitaş to the stage to deliver his speech on cultivating and transforming teacher identity through inquiry. The stage is yours, hocam.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much for coming. I'm really happy to be here. First of all, I would like to thank Seferoth, really nice, researcher in the field. We have had the chance to work together, and Anil for her kind invitation as well, because I have also had a kind of connection with her. We started research and did something together. That's really kind of them to invite me, and thank you for coming here. And I'm also excited because my professors from MA programs and from PhD programs are also here, and I would like to thank them for listening to me. I hope, hocam, you're not going to read the thesis and listen to me. Okay, I mean, probably without knowing, I was placed after Gölge hocam because, our topics kind of complement each other, because I'm going to be talking about professional development in Turkey from different perspectives, and try to show kind of how what Gölge hocam said, mindset, can be proceduralized and can be used in our own context. What could be the stages of developing such growth mindset, if you remember? Do you remember that word from the previous slide? Can you raise your hand? If you remember that word, mindset, from the previous slide. Growth mindset? Okay, good. So we're going to be actually referring to that with some examples too. And also, to make it more interactive, I would like you to make some notes during my session, writing at least one question, and then I'm going to tell you what you're going to do with the question by the end of the session, okay? But I'm asking you to write one question at least about anything that I'm trying to discuss with you, okay? So the topic is, I can also talk about the backstory of the title. I didn't know that some in-service teachers would be here. And when Sedat told me that there will be teachers from in-service context, from Minister of Education, I said I shouldn't be talking about or addressing only pre-service teachers, because the original title and topic was about developing inquiry stance in practicum level. Yeah, and then we decided to change, and I would like to introduce kind of identity, the concept of identity, and the role of it in professional development, okay? And I have, actually, I'll try to show you the three things that I will be focusing today. And the first one is about post-method pedagogy or transformational pedagogy, and how this is related to professional development, which I'm going to highlight. And secondly, I'll be talking about or focusing on inquiry in terms of teacher development, and then we'll be lightly, actually not so intensively, talking about teachers as researchers and how that concept of teachers as researchers can actually relate to inquiry and mindset, okay, growth mindset, freeing teachers from fixed mindset. And in the third section of this presentation, I'll be talking about how teachers learn and how identity is constructed when the identity is explored by the teachers themselves, okay? Okay, so these are the three sections, and probably I will not be telling you, okay, I finished the first section and now it's the second section, but you're going to follow that presentation in this flow. Okay, so when I say professional development, it is not only about teachers developing themselves disconnected from the classroom itself. That is why actually developing such an identity or growth mindset, I think we need to focus on specific pedagogies that teachers can conduct in their classrooms. That is why first I'll be talking about post-method pedagogy, referring to Kumarava-Divelu. It's an old article, but it is really giving us a great scope for understanding our own practices and how our practices can be linked to developing our own identity and our learner's identity. And in this sense, post-method pedagogy deals with three particular concepts. The first one is, it says, teacher learning should be done or should occur in a particular environment. So the particularity concept is coming to the fore. And then it says it should be practical, and then it should be the art of possible. I mean, what I'm trying to say here is like, whatever we do as a teacher to learn how to teach in the context of pre-service teaching, and also learning teaching in the context of in-service teaching, I think we need to keep in mind these three principles. And now I'm going to discuss what these refer to with some examples as far as I can. So this is also seen as a three-dimensional system of teacher learning. And by particularity, we mean that teachers need to be sensitive to working with a particular group of teachers, teaching a particular group of learners, and pursuing a particular practical goals within a context. So within that perspective, the sensitivity that we can develop about our context should be particularized. I mean, we shouldn't worry about the classrooms we are not teaching. We should be worried about the students that we are teaching, the classroom that we are working, the schools that we are working in. And otherwise, I mean, teacher learning will be kind of generic, which would not end up with contextualized and relevant knowledge that could help teachers or that could inform teachers for better teaching and learning as a professional and developing teacher. And this context-sensitive pedagogical knowledge can also be developed actually by, highlighting the critical awareness of local awareness. I mean, what we mean by local experiences is that things that you live in your own classroom, and how these experiences are helping you understand your learners, understand your materials, understand your instruction as well. So teachers, from that perspective, teachers should learn and develop in their own classrooms rather than in somewhere else. They are not, expected to develop or, analyze or process any kind of information or theoretical knowledge outside their classrooms. So the classrooms, from that perspective, are particular places for teachers to learn and develop. I think that is one thing that we should focus on throughout our career. The second one is like teachers, when they work in their classrooms in the particular context that they are working in, is helping them, explore the pedagogic knowledge that they need, okay? And when they explore the pedagogical knowledge that they need, I think this is going to raise their awareness about particular issues pertaining to their own classrooms. And that is the point when they start their professional development. I think, focusing on the particular context they work will always, lead to teachers more sensitivity, more awareness, and actually more relevant knowledge that they need to learn about teaching in this particular classroom, in this particular school, or in this particular area. I know that many teachers work in a particular area and they go to different schools sometimes. Are you teaching in different schools here in Bolu? Are you teaching in different schools in the same province? I did that when I first started, so I know that this is a common practice. So engaging in that pedagogical exploration can also happen with like observation. It could be like self-observation, and also reflection on own experiences and own teaching. But usually what is missing in our professional development models is the action part. We usually observe, reflect on our own or with others, but we don't take any actions on that. I think we need to add this third dimension observation, reflection, and action. And that action is a complex process anyway, but you can, as a growing teacher, as a teacher with growth mindset, I think action part would be very easier for you to teach. The second one was practicality, if you remember, okay? So when we, say practicality, we need to consider the theoretical understandings of teaching. Most of us read different articles, they tell us to do something, or some kind of blog writings you might be reading, or journals, or articles in journals. You usually get different ideas from experts, right? Do you do that? You read a lot of methodology books and they tell you to do something and to teach in a particular way. As Gölge hocam was showing the comics, it was like nothing will be the same as, when you teach in the real classroom, because we are preparing you for an ideal context, actually, unfortunately. But when you go to the classrooms, you're not going to see this ideal context anyway. So you have to develop growth mindset to be able to address any challenges, any unpredictable challenges in your classrooms. So this practicality is actually addressing that. It says that don't care much about what is given to you by experts in the books. It's not going to happen. It's not going to help you. It's not going to work all the time. So you have to develop a teacher-generated theory of practice. You need to construct your own practical knowledge within your classroom, preferably with your learners. We're not saying that. In another slide, I'm going to focus on that. I don't want to say it because learning and development is a unique, couple, let's say. There are some things that we need to consider. So here, Kumaravediveli is actually saying, teachers need to develop a theoretical knowledge, but this could be unique to their own classroom, which is practical and working theory for them, rather than for everywhere, for every classroom. Okay, so a pedagogy of practicality is actually saying, practice the theory, fine, but don't believe much, it says, and theorize from that practical implementation. So you try to understand, you try to drive a kind of theoretical understanding, personal theoretical understanding from your practices, otherwise it's not gonna help you. So theory is fine in the beginning, you can implement it, but you need to transform it. You need to put it into another shape, learn from your practices by reflection, by exploration, by raising your awareness. The second one, it says, practical professional development or practical learning requires autonomous professional development. Nobody is going to be with you when you become a teacher in Hakkari, in Bingöl, in Hatay, or in Trabzon. You're going to be left alone. So you need to be kind of autonomous in deciding, conducting, navigating your own professional development in different ways. And the last one is like, when you do all this, when you become autonomous and when you theorize your practical experiences through critical thinking, then you can actually develop context-specific pedagogic knowledge. I was corresponding with a friend of mine in Japan, and he was saying, I don't know, I'm not an expert, I don't know anything. I said, look, I don't know anything about Japan. You're working there, you know whatever is relevant for Japanese context. I'm sure you have a lot of knowledge that we don't have as people who are not teaching in Japan. So everybody is kind of developing context-sensitive knowledge wherever they are. I mean, let alone teachers. Even nurses, working in a particular hospital is not the same as working in another city, because the context is different. So we always develop contextual knowledge that is uniquely helpful and relevant for personal professional development. I think that is something that we are not. We are developing kind of generic knowledge most of the time, regarding or ignoring actually what we can learn from our learners, from our classroom. So context sensitivity is really key in that sense. And as I said, the theory of practice is actually an ongoing, it never stops. You will always be thinking about your practices and develop practical knowledge. It's an ongoing living, it has a living structure, it is living because it is changing. And also it's a working theory. You're always updated. It is not a static theory. You're always adding more dimensions, more aspects to the concept of practical knowledge. I don't think, like, 10 years ago, if you were teaching, let's say, in a school 10 years ago with particular knowledge, when these students come, when world changes, when technology changes our small world, are we going to teach in the same way? No, we have to change. So our personal teaching theory, practical teaching theory, it has to change. That is why we are saying that it's a working theory. It never comes to an end unless you retire, actually. If you retire, it stops, fine. If you don't teach anyway. And also, so we can get some implications from that understanding, practicality of post-pedagogical method. We can say, first, understand and identify problems in your context, in your specific context, not in other schools, in other parts of the world, in other parts of the country. Analyze and assess this information. This is kind of how you can be more and more reflective. And then consider and evaluate different alternatives for teaching the same thing. It makes you a kind of practical teacher who is experimenting with new ideas. That is fine. And choose the best available alternative, by the end of the term or during the term. And then do further critical appraisal, and you never stop doing that appraisal or doing that assessment, knowledge assessment in different ways. So I think this is also telling us that teachers are lifelong learners as long as they teach in the classroom. Lifelong learners of teaching. We call them learners of teaching. We never become a teacher, actually. It is just a title, but we are all learners because we are all learning different aspects of how to teach, what to teach, when to teach, where to teach, okay? That is the understanding that practicality is telling us. And the third one was possibility, a pedagogy of possibility. I think possibility is about how much and what you can do as a teacher, how much you can create something new, how you can change your practices, how you can change your teaching. It is said, question the statu quo. The statu quo is the books, actually, or the materials given to you, or ideas imposed on you from higher on, okay? So challenge it. Don't believe everything you hear you're given. Just try to learn your own way. Try to find your own way. And then only in this way can you empower yourself and your learners. We're always talking about teachers, but I think teachers with such a mindset are always going to, impact their learners in irreversible ways. This is the message that we need to get from that post method, actually. And the last one is generating contextual and practical knowledge. The possibility is about generating something different, something new, something that works for your classroom and for your learners, actually, and for you as well. You should be you should do something that you believe. Sometimes I'm doing this activity because my learners like it. Don't you like it yourself? If no, that's a bigger problem. I think you need to find a kind of happy medium where you are teaching, because if you're teaching in a way that you don't like or you don't believe in, that's not going to work. Think about that message as well. So develop contextual practical knowledge that is relevant for you and for your learners, rather than only for your learners. We're working for them, but we're working for us as well. We need to understand more about that. So regarding possibility, I would like to say this: teaching as an art of the possible. This is like finding out the possible pedagogy for our students in a particular context, for a particular group of students, etc. And these books, if you want to look into these books, there are a number of studies in these 4 books that were published consecutively, and they are open access. There are different research studies carried by teachers. So teachers wrote their research process, investigative process, critical inquiry process. And you can find a number of stories, challenges, achievements in these chapters. And you can actually see how they are setting up the art of the possible with research in their own classrooms. Okay, that's why I put those books, because there are a number of stories, challenges, achievements, written accounts, very reflective, some are very evaluative, because in a study I recently did, we found that research writing or reflective writing, if properly done, is opening a kind of outlet for teachers where they can be more and more self-evaluative. This is like they are let's say they are admitting whatever, inappropriate pedagogy they have done in these research areas, because there is no gatekeeper. Okay? When there is a gatekeeper, we don't normally tell them what we are doing wrong. But when we are writing, this is a private place which is going to be publicized anyway, but usually we write more than what we can say to the face of the people, especially the gatekeepers in the schools. So this is a place, writing as a teacher is kind of where you can tell about your own biases, your own misleading or misconceptions, okay? So if you like, go and see how the teachers constructed their arts of the possible pedagogy in their classrooms by doing investigations, by doing critical research about personal issues. Because I should remind that when I say research for teachers and by teachers, we don't mean that they are doing research for everybody. They are doing research in their classrooms for personal, professional challenges, or let's say issues, questions, or puzzles. They are looking, they're trying to find different and alternative ways for better teaching. So, possibility, particularity, and let's say practicality tells us something about how we can widen the pedagogical options as a teacher, actually. This is like, it is going to help you develop a mindset if you have received that message. But also we need to think about some pedagogical positions that we can get. How we are positioning ourselves within our pedagogy. So, maybe you can think about where you are putting yourself. Are you kind of transmission driven, or transactional learning, or transformative teachers? Which one is the ultimate goal that teachers need to embrace or cultivate for themselves? The first one, the second, and the third one? Which one? Third one. Okay. So teachers need to be transformative, you mean? Okay? Yes, very good. So when we say transmission, it is like the first thing that we learn from the concept of being a teacher. Okay? We usually transmit knowledge, transmit our beliefs, some information to the learners. So this is driven by actually transmission concept. And also we disseminate knowledge quickly because we tell, they listen. This is something that puts learners in the position of passive recipient of anything that teachers are giving or role modeling to them. And also learners, participate at a minimum level in this kind of pedagogy. And the third one is learning opportunities are also minimized because teachers are just telling something, but students are not processing what is given. So this is the most primitive way of teaching, actually, which is the easiest, I guess, because there is nothing that discomforts the teacher while they are talking, no questions, nothing happens. So they just tell what they want to say, they plan things, and then they produce and they give it, and the transmittive or transmission happens in terms of learning. Secondly, in the transaction part, okay, at this level, if you are transactionist teacher, then you can say, okay, learners are more active in that sense. Active thinking and problem solving can be used as a pedagogical activity. Learners might be acting proactively in that level, and then learners and teachers learn to transfer information or knowledge that they have, okay? But here still there is no interaction. We're not talking of interaction, we're talking of kind of sharing knowledge. I tell you, you ask me, okay, this is like both sides learn or help each other, but there is still no integration of both sides. Whereas in transformation, we can see action and reflection are hand in hand. I think Gölge Hocam was also talking about if students are not, Simon Phipps, do you remember the reference to Simon Phipps? If students are not faced with some kind of conflicts, challenges, or differences between what they believe and then what is given to them, no learning will occur. This is the word that I chose to use, dissonance. We need to be facing our dissonances. I mean, the dissonances, this is referring to the beliefs that we have and the beliefs that is imposed by others. If they are aligned, then there is no learning to occur. But if there is different, that's going to urge you to learn and think further. So in transformation part, we see more problem posing and questioning, okay? I mean, sometimes answering questions might be easy, but it is harder, relatively harder, to pose questions, to problematize issues in our classroom. And also transformative pedagogy requires constructing and generating knowledge, as we talked in the post-method pedagogy. And also in transformation, we need sustained interaction and contextualization of knowledge for our classroom. So we can find knowledge that is relevant for all, but not generic knowledge, not all generic knowledge applies to our classroom. So we need to be able to get what we need from this generic knowledge that is relevant and interesting for our classroom. So transformation will only occur if there is more and more interaction between the learners and students, if there is more interaction between learners and learners. So for transformative teacher, to become a transformative teacher, I think we need the concepts, or let's say the mindset for particularity, practicality, and possibility in deciding which methods, which pedagogies that we are going to use. And we are combining this with identity formation and development. If teachers are engaging and practicing such methodology, such a mindset in the classroom, then identity, transformation, and development will be cultivated and understood, actually. So identity is not something different from learning. Your identity is how you learn, how you practice, what you do in the classroom. It all reflects you, okay? We are going to focus on that as well. Sorry. So from this one, from this one, I try to link to inquiry. Okay, when you start transformative pedagogy in your classroom by also thinking about post-method pedagogy principles, then you should think about how to do inquiry. Okay, that is the mindset change, but how are you going to do it? So inquiry is actually something that you systematically, meaningfully, contextually engage in finding out what is relevant for you. Okay? So inquiry is just getting knowledge from your own classroom, not from the theories and top-down knowledge. And the definition actually clearly see that this is something critical exploration, a systematicity, criticality, developing such a perspective on the critical issues in your own classroom. So from that sense, I think developing or embracing a critical, let's say, inquiry stance is not so easy. It takes up time. It is the learning itself. So the inquiry-related identity is going to develop if you focus on these two things. Putting understanding first. This is something that Dr. Wright has been saying for 30 years probably in books and articles and in many plenary speeches. And I personally listened to him, and he's saying if you don't understand first, you are never going to create a procedure, a practice that is going to be relevant or relevant and interesting for your learners. So first we need to understand the issues, and inquiry framework can help you understand, okay, rather than do something. So first, step back, observe your learners, see how they are responding to you, what questions they are asking, what challenges they are having. This is kind of making you exploratory researchers. You are exploring for getting contextual knowledge from the classroom and then develop your understanding. So actually, identity development is not directly about practice development, but first understanding and developing a critical and investigative mindset. And then you should always focus on why. You should ask why questions, like children. Okay, why do my learners not listen? Why do my learners, like memorization? Is it me? Is it them? Who wants us to do memorization in the classroom? So why do my learners not read? You can focus on such simple, practical questions, and you might come up with superficial responses to these questions. You can say, oh, I know, because the texts are hard. They don't work at home. Okay, they are not motivated. We attribute the failure and demotivation and disengagement to others. But as teachers, I think first we need to ask this question to us. What am I doing to change that? Is it me? Is it my practices? How can I change this? Probably it is your practices, your understanding that is discouraging learners from reading, from becoming motivated, from learning a particular skill. So I think focusing on why is really critical. Sometimes there have been such studies as well. We are asking learners why, asking them to make why questions. Ask some why questions about, become more critical about the pedagogy that is going on in the classroom. So they usually talk about, okay, why do you use PowerPoint, let's say? They might ask you such questions, and their questions might give you different ideas about where and in what areas you need to change and develop. Maybe you can try when you become a teacher and ask why questions to yourself and to your learners to better understand first, to explore your context, right? And then this is the third stage where you can do this exploration, this understanding. The first one is like knowledge of practice. You all have some kind of knowledge about how to teach, okay? Everybody has a particular set of knowledge of practice, teaching, I mean, when I say practice. Okay, so in this level, if I ask you, you can tell me something from Harmer, something from different authors in the field of ELT. You can tell us more about knowledge of practice. This is the knowledge that is outside you. But how can you make it yours? The second stage, knowledge in practice. You can develop new sets of knowledge while you're teaching. If you actually become critical and investigative and exploratory, this is what we are saying. And the third one, this is the action part. You need to use that knowledge for future. You need to inform your practices, that means. Not only informing yourself, but also developing some kind of mindset that you're going to draw on when you're teaching in the future. What practices will help me to teach in the future to such students or to my students? So it is not about learning a particular discrete item of teaching or practice. It is about developing a kind of capacity to build on in the future. So teaching or profession development is actually not skill learning, but capacity building for anything that is unexpected, that is challenging for you as a teacher in the future, or for your learners in the future, okay? So this could make you more and more investigative and critical and inquiry driven, let's say. If you follow a simple stage, you can change that. You can say, I won't follow that cycle, I will do mine. That is also a product of growth mindset. You can do it, which is something I always ask the teachers that I teach, that I work with. I say, develop your own. This is something I found. You can find a better one. Okay? So this is also kind of flexibility in developing different alternative knowledge. And also, we can think about this process, inquiry process can also happen more specifically within these cycles that I showed. Questioning and reflecting, that is the self-questioning, others questioning. We need always questioning. Interacting and collaborating. Actually, the transformative pedagogy inquires all of these. Without collaboration, without interacting, I'm not talking about communication, I'm talking about interaction. Because communication is, I'm now communicating my ideas actually, I'm not interacting with you. So this happens in all the classrooms. But I think for classroom pedagogy, which is more relevant, what is more relevant is that you interact with your students. Listen to them, tell them, they tell you, construct knowledge together. As I said, ask them why questions. Ask them to make why questions. This is going to start, instigate questioning and actually kind of inquiry in your learners too. And then if you develop your inquiry stance, actually your identity is going to be shaped anyway. Because a teacher who is doing nothing different for 30 years, let's say, will not develop a kind of different identity. As I said, identity is also something living, something ongoing, something developing, something changing, and it must be. Because identity is very much related to what you do. If you change your practices, your identity will form itself in a different way. If you change your role in the school, or if you change your role in the classroom from transmitter or from transmission-oriented teacher to transformative-oriented teacher, you have to do something else. So these practices, classroom practices, will make you a unique teacher with different understandings of identity-related aspects, okay? So what we are saying is teacher learning is a kind of exploration of your identity as a teacher. As long as you explore who you are, I will be talking about that in the next slide. This is also telling us something like developing, or let's say, I usually use that word, not shifting, but developing into or growing into a different role, I say, because it's not some, okay, I stop being transmittive and I will be transformative. This is not something like that. So it is kind of developing into different roles, developing into different understandings by, not practicing what the concept of technician is telling us. So we become more reflective, more investigative, develop more critical lens through which we can better see our learners, our teaching, and ourselves as well, is going to make us have a different identity. And this was something you need to brief summary of what I said. So transmissive is like learning from others, like you learn from educators, you learn from teachers, you learn from researchers, you learn from teacher educators. This is an old-fashioned way of seeing learning and teaching. The second one is learning from each other. This is, yes, you tell me something and I tell you something. We just learn something from each other. Okay, this is, oh, you showed me a new method, I'm going to do it. Okay, you learn from each other. That is it. But in transformational learning, I think this is kind of co-learning and co-changing. So changing together. So in transformative level, you change with your learners. Your learners become different learners and you become a different teacher. That is actually transformational pedagogy in that sense. So, transformation is, all we try to say, transformation and identity learning is a contextual process. I don't say it's a contextual concepts. I don't say it. It is a concept. But I think we need to call it as a process that never ends, as I said, until you stop teaching and jump into another profession. So we need to focus on our classrooms for transforming ourselves as a teacher. You might say, Hocam, I'm going to teach in a village, in a very small classroom. Students don't understand my language, because I've met such teachers as well. But I said, these are, learning under difficult circumstances is more important than learning under ideal classrooms. In ideal classrooms, of course, there are a lot to learn. But in such classrooms, that is difficult to teach in terms of the learner's profile and background, whether linguistic or cultural or, political, let's say, that is still a lot to learn. That's why I say focus on your context, analyze your context, and find your own identity. No two teachers have the similar identity. That is the key point, actually. And from our book, the one in the picture, the last one, we have written that one actually. So teachers as agents of creativity and change. That is not, they are not the recipient of imposed knowledge, which refers to post method, practicality. You remember practicality level or practical pedagogy. Developing practical pedagogy is very much about creativity. And from this we can say good teaching is not about using particular techniques in the classroom, which many teachers are looking for. Give me some techniques I can use with those students. I say, I don't know your students, you decide, find it, develop it, okay, construct it. But it is about learning and changing with your learners and maybe with your learners and peers in the school. So teacher identity from that perspective is something, as we said, living, something changing, something like a working theory, is understanding who you are as a teacher. When I say who you are as a teacher, from your perspective, from learner's perspective, from parents' perspective, can you think 10 seconds about how are you seen? And what kind of a teacher are you seen by others? And is there an alignment with how you see yourself and then how others see you as a teacher? Or they see me like that, but I don't see myself like that, I'm a different teacher. Is it possible? So this alignment, the consistency between how you see yourself and how others see you is going to give you a good perspective, a unique perspective of your own identity. That is something actually you need to focus on. What kind of a teacher am I? Who you believe you are. Sometimes, I mean, there are always discrepancies between, you know, who you believe you are and who you actually are. Okay? You believe yourself to be a particular teacher, but others don't see that capacity, that ability in you. Okay? Recently, Aydan hocam put a Facebook post actually about that. It was about identity, değil mi hocam? How people see themselves and then how others see them. Okay, so I will be very quick. So this is also very much related to who you want to be as a teacher in the future, right? So teacher learning, identity-related teacher learning is beyond knowledge-based, being a knowledge-based teacher in terms of subject matter, theories, pedagogical content, knowledge, etc. But it is about an identity-making process. You need to create your identity. You need to understand yourself from diverse perspectives, right? And then it is always seeking different ways to develop in that sense. So if we develop, I mean, identity is developed and formed when you have a new teaching experience in different contexts. If you teach in the same classroom to the same students for 30 years, I don't think your identity will develop. But having different experiences will tap different aspects of the identity. And also the critical interactions and reflections you do with different people will also help you develop an identity. And also exposing your voice, telling it to the audience, telling it to others, without interacting, we said, without, you know, expressing your opinions about teaching and learning. How are you going to get feedback from people and then, you know, expose your understandings to social influence, to the influence of others? Getting feedback is a kind of social influence, so you need to experience that influence. So we shouldn't be worried about inspectors or our colleagues or peers coming to our classrooms and giving us feedback. That is where you are presented with the social influence. That is key for change. Hocam bitiriyorum. Okay, good. All right, so social interaction and professional context is really key. That is the thing. One code that is about context and interaction, if you see that a teacher in our study said, if I didn't work here in a university level, a particular university, I wouldn't be the teacher I am now, because he said, the feedback I have received from my learners and my reflection helped me reshape and myself as a teacher. So he is talking about identity change in a particular context with the social interaction he has been setting, okay? All right. So this is the, you know, how teacher identity can shift as roles and practices change. I think that was the message that I am trying to give here. And this is the, how that can be facilitated. I mean, this is the mindset actually. I'll try to describe the mindset where you can put other items as well. You need to be open, reflective. These are all actually expressed by Gölge Hocam as well. I mean, like as a person, we need to be open to critical, constructive feedback. And then this is how you can actually shape teacher and learner identity, because you need to be teachers who offer space for learners to speak, to plan, to act, to experience themselves as a learner. That is the way that they can set up their or construct their identity with you in the classroom. Okay, and this is also telling us specific transformational practices rather than transmissive and transformational. You can see that it is recorded. So if you watch again, you can see all these items yourself too. So this is what I say, teachers learn and shape identity with their learners, and they need to work for exploring their identities from critical perspectives. Thank you for listening. Sorry if I exceeded the time. Sorry, John. Okay. Can you do that? Yeah? Are you asking the question?